VOS First Fates is probably one of the most unique horror games and games in general I've ever played in my life, because let's be honest, a video game experience purely through a smartphone screen, I've never seen anything like that before. Admittedly, the main character, whenever male or female, which is never actually stated, holds it like an idiot, but I get that that's trendy these days.
Yeah, but we make vertical shorts as well.
I know, shut up! I would be more interested in whenever it will be ported to mobile phones or tablets in the future, because that would be a natural fit. Currently the first episode, titled First Fates, is available on Steam, with 2 more episodes to follow sometime after that, as the guys at id Software would say, when it's done. Right off the bat though, I'd like to point out to anyone interested that AI played a major role in this solo developer's project. I noticed it within the first few seconds, since those 2 characters seemed very suspicious to me. According to a statement on Steam by the author himself, AI apparently created only the basic visuals and sound effects, and then its work was reviewed and fine-tuned by a human. However, I'd say this needs to be mentioned, especially since it's quite obvious. The controls are also adapted for a smartphone experience. I swipe my finger, or more precisely my mouse cursor, across the screen from left to right. This is most effectively used with the flashlight, which is your most important ally while playing. For one thing, many locations are pitch black, and the flashlight is the only way to reveal interactive objects, characters or doors that let you move on to the next area. The only problem is that sometimes, instead of pulling out the flashlight, I'd accidentally click on something interactive, which of course could mean my death. This whole project is run by a cybersecurity company, Veil Obscura Services, which offers an interesting side gig. As part of its software rehabilitation division, you navigate through short stories, collect data, resolve anomalies and try to get as far as possible. If you die, it's not a big deal, you can always restart the story and start fresh from the beginning. In gaming terms, it's a typical roguelike, in this case a horror point-and-click roguelike. And the reward, a cryptocurrency very similar to Bitcoin, which you can use to buy all sorts of upgrades or items. The story of the first episode follows Japanese reporter Katsuo and his cameraman friend Jacob, whose most useful ability is to always disappear at just the right moment, as they set out for an abandoned monastery to hunt ghosts. Of course, everything goes wrong as soon as they enter the monastery, and Katsuo suddenly finds himself standing alone at the main entrance. From this point on, it's entirely up to the player where to go next. Most importantly though, you will need to survive as long as possible, because the monastery is not only full of monsters, but also treacherous traps from which there is no escape. Some rooms are strictly one way, meaning you can go in, but you can't come out. Trial and error will be your faithful companion, especially at the beginning. I'll briefly pause at the monsters. Combat is fought by coloring 1 to 3 kanji's characters from about 6 options, and it depends on how quickly and how accurately you color them in. Fortunately, there's more than enough time, so I would never see that as a problem. It's more about the accuracy. It often works rather strange. Sometimes I color way off to the side and the game is totally fine with it. Other times I color relatively accurately and get an instant loss, meaning I lose my health. And there's nothing like when that happens against the final boss, who insta-kills you. Anyway, the enemy spam is sometimes massive and rather annoying. Like when I went into the cafeteria and accidentally walked out, it was always the same enemy with 3 kanjis. Items to protect against monsters are a must buy, because otherwise it gets incredibly annoying, disgustingly fast even. So as you can probably guess, playing is purely trial and error, especially at the start, because you don't have the slightest clue what's going on, or that you just walk into a trap. And those traps are sometimes insanely stupid. Find a scroll, die, you disturb the monks. Pick up a book in the puddle, death. hand grab you and drag you into the depths. This is insane bullshit and I'm not really fan of this. If at least there were a chance to leave some of the rooms, like the one with the giant fan which I entered through an unlocked door, then maybe I will be able to leave through the same unlocked door, but no such luck. Instead, there's no other option but to quit the story. Or of course... I'll admit that by my 7th or so attempt it was starting to get on my nerves. For one thing, I still didn't understand where to get the map of the temple. And when you repeatedly defeat this or that ghost, it just doesn't have the same effect as it did the first time. But salvation came. I finally found the right path to the underground labs and fought my way to the worst and of course easiest ending D. Everything was disaster. My Bitcoin balance however skyrocketed. I bought some healing potions and went to brute force the puzzle in the bookcase that had been kicking my ass over and over again. Of course I nailed it on the first try, how typical of me. However, if you are planning to try VOS First Fates 2, I might just save you a few dozen minutes. And I'll do it without any major spoilers, there's a pretty important hidden door here. So if you are not into that damn it, what do I have to do here to move forward kind of gameplay, keep that in mind. Thanks to this, I eventually managed to reach all 4 different endings. Don't worry, no major spoilers. Just the last one, the A end, the best one, where I have to log on into the system as an admin. Of course I don't have the password. I did manage to accidentally discover a short message in Morse code in the game menu after waiting 5 minutes. I fed it to the AI and got the Latin word fuck, but when I entered that into the login or password fields, nothing happened. So I clicked the typical forgot password button, which takes me to the developer's Instagram, where there's a hint. Except that Instagram kept throwing errors at me that evening. I appreciate the unorthodox solution, but looking it behind a social media that not all of us have, I don't know, man. Doesn't seem very nice. So after those roughly 3.5 hours, I would say probably yes. VOS First Fates can be a very frustrating point-and-click horror roguelike, and when the same enemy jumps at you for the 20th time, you are no longer scared, you just roll your eyes, think, get lost, and pray that the developer will take mercy on you so you don't get an insta-kill for a wrong kanji.
No, don't say... Same, but different!
On the other hand, I can't deny that when I managed to get into a previously undiscovered room, or rather make significant progress toward unlocking a new ending, I was immediately sucked back in. We will see what the next episodes have in store. Hopefully, at the very least, they will make less use of AI, if that's possible.